Okay, well, like Susan said, I do functional neurology. I'm a chiropractic neurologist. I started out being a chiropractor from Minnesota, graduated in 1987, practiced a year there, and then somebody convinced me to move to Arizona. What functional neurology just means is I'm trying to change your body without a drug, okay? And today I'll be talking about Parkinson's, but really I'll be talking about all kinds of neurodegenerative diseases. Parkinson's is just one. There's many types of movement disorders. Parkinson's is one of 20 actually. And I gave you a handout. I hope you can kind of understand and follow me some of the stuff. And don't take this as a put down, but I kind of look at a patient like a car. Okay, it's spark and gas. And spark is everything we can do physically for you. Gas is things that you can do metabolically. And there's a lot of things you can do nutrition to make your brain work better. And so I'll be kind of spending the next 40 minutes going through this. We have a little question and answer afterwards. But does anybody know what a half-life is?
No.
What is it?
However long a drug or any kind of compound takes to disintegrate into nothingness,
Excellent.
it's half of that.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so like a lot of times, the half-life of certain drugs can be, most antidepressants are 7 to 10 days. Okay, half-life, you take vitamins, vitamin D, half-life is 15 days. And there's something that's called the rule of fours. And it's negative, but I'll make it positive. And the rule is if you don't have oxygen in your brain for 4 minutes, you're dead. Okay, if let's say you don't drink water, fluids for 4 days, you'll probably be dead. And if, let's say, you're out starving in the desert for 40 days, you'd be dead. So half-lives are anywhere from seconds to minutes to days to weeks to months, okay? And that's the whole strategy with a lot of things that are in physical medicine for treating. Parkinson's isn't a disease that kills you. What it does is it disables you and sets you up for other organ systems of your body to stop working, okay? Now, where did everybody come from?
Georgia, Scottsdale.
Oh, you mean originally?
Yeah.
St. Louis?
Minnesota.
I came from a sperm and an egg. Okay, so I'm going to take some complicated neurons. Yeah, we're all A's. Unless you got somebody who's hatched here. But that's how we all started out. And then basically we turned into endoderm, mesoderm, and ectoderm. And endoderm is your digestive tract. Mesoderm is your muscles, your skeleton. And your ectoderm is basically your brain, okay? And then the ectoderm develops into something called the forebrain, the midbrain, the hindbrain, okay? And the forebrain is broken up into something called the telencephalon and diencephalon. Look, there'll be a quiz in all this, okay? And the telencephalon basically becomes your cortex, okay? Which means, you have the lobes of your brain, you have your parietal lobe, which is sensory and motor. You got your temporal lobe, which is basically hearing as well as short-term and long-term memory. You got your occipital lobe for vision, and the big thing is you got your frontal lobe, which is your area of personality and behavior, okay? Then you have the diencephalon, which basically is your thalamic nucleus, your subthalamic nucleuses. The midbrain is the mesencephalon, and that a lot of times is your biggest problem because your mesencephalon is excitatory to everything, okay? Your hindbrain is your rhomencephalon, which is basically your pons medulla and your cerebellum, which I almost remember that. Your cerebellum is really an important thing because when you look at all the neurons of your brain, the cerebellum only takes up about 10% of the volume of your brain, and yet it has 80% of the neurons, okay? Which takes you back to physical medicine there's a lot of things we can do for that naturally, okay? Now, the big thing is we talked about half-lives earlier, and the big thing is with half-lives, you don't have oxygen in your brain, you're 4 minutes, you're dead, right? Okay, so you're a drowning victim, somebody's choking you, and that's an example of a stroke, okay? Or you have a heart attack, and it's like if you don't get attended to right today, you're dead, okay? The problem with neurodegenerative diseases is if you see somebody, daily, weekly, even monthly, you don't notice something. But I guess the best example is go back to class reunions, okay?
Yeah.
You go back to your 10-year, your 20-year. It's like, I remember my 10-year class reunion, the smallest guy on the basketball team, he was a guard, shortest guy, and the heavyweight wrestler, they were the same size 10 years later. Okay, so it's an example of how you see differences and changes. And, the first page I got here, we got 7. There's many things. But one of the first things is the loss of smell. okay? And what's horrible about that is if, let's say, you're by yourself, and as you get older, let's say nobody else is around, then sometimes maybe your vision's not the best either, and a lot of people die of food poisoning because they don't check labels in the refrigerator. So loss of smell is one of the first clinical signs. Trouble sleeping, and that goes back to that center of your brain called the midbrain, which is the mesencephalon. And the way the brain works is your frontal lobe has a lot to do with areas of personality and behavior, and your cerebellum has a lot to do with activating the frontal lobe. And the problem is as we age, everybody, if you have children here, if you remember back the fetal monitors, 150, 180 beats a minute, okay? And what happened is as that brain developed, the inhibition happened. And that's when your pulses were going down to the 50s or 60s or 70s. So that's one of the things, is a lot of times with people with bad sleep habits, they set themselves up for neurodegenerative diseases, okay? I'm going to be talking about nutrition here a lot more in a moment, but the big thing is just constipation, these poor digestive patterns, and there's stuff that we can do to address that. Mass face, 1,000-yard stare, loss of facial expression. These are all, the little guys get tired quicker than the big guys. So when you start seeing loss of facial expression, and it ties into mood disorders too, which once again I'll be talking about neurotransmitters, dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, epinephrine. Just think of cars on the freeway, and what they're doing is, they all should be working together, and if there's an accident, then you get a disruption of that stuff. Dizziness, fainting, and especially stooping and bad posture. Okay, that's where gravity can be your end. It can be your friend. It can be your enemy. And the problem is your cerebellum controls so much activity through physical modalities. Okay, so now we got the warning signs. The next thing we start talking about here is, I just lifted next page here is, you got 5 things as far as natural cures go. And there's a lot of things you can do to strengthen your balance receptors that don't take a lot of high-tech stuff to do, okay? Literally any patient that sees me, I usually show them some sort of balance exercise, whether they're a neurodegenerative, a neuro case, or whether it's simple neck or back stuff. And you can buy an Eric's balance pad for about $60, and I can show you very simple activities to do it. I have a YouTube channel. If you want to go subscribe to it, you just go Dr. Mark Burdorf channel, and I have a lot of short videos on balance exercises. Everybody take, depends how big your neck is, take 3 or 4 fingers and just put it on the back of your neck. Probably if you're right-handed, use your left hand. Okay. All right, now just have some pretty firm pressure there. Okay, now go ahead and just take your right thumb, put it in front of you about 12, 16 inches away. Now, breathe, and just start doing this. Going back and forth. Now, does anybody feel their neck muscles contract?
Yeah.
Okay, if you feel your neck muscles contract, raise your hand. Okay, cool. You guys could all be chiropractors. Okay? All right, when I was in chiropractic school, one of the things that they did to teach us our tactile sensation was we would take hair, put it between pages of a book, and that's how we developed that. And eye exercises are very powerful. There's a lot of stuff going on as far as not just, you can Google me, okay, and I'll be talking about it, but you can Google, there's many different types of exercises that affect behavior patterns, okay? And one of the basic things about exercise is if I take a target from here to here, that's called a pursuit. When I go from this target back to here, it's called a saccade, okay? Now, when I go from midline to my right, it's my right parietal cortex, which is sensory motor, which is pain and suffering, pursues that. When I come from here back to here, that saccade is generated by my frontal lobe, okay? So, same difference when you go to the left. Left pursuit, left frontal lobe. Now, to make matters even more complicated, then you got your cerebellum on each side, and your right cerebellum kicks your eyes to the left, and your left cerebellum kicks your eyes to the right. So if you have any kind of dysfunction from those 3 regions of your brain, okay, and where's a lot of this stuff come from? Trauma, okay, you pay attention to all this stuff as far as concussion, whiplash, and again, you got the people, well, let's see, I don't think any of us play in the NFL, okay? But the reason they got those big contracts is there's a cost attached to that, and the problem is statistic-wise, you know, if you played 6 years in the NFL, you don't live more than 51 years old. Okay, you've got 4 times the rate of Parkinson's, Lou Gehrig's, ALS, Alzheimer's. And those guys, it's all the traumas they take. And you can have chemical traumas too, and it just goes back to diet, nutrition, and I'll be addressing that in a few minutes here. Okay, there's some cheap stuff you can do, and one of them is we talk about the loss of smell. So you see, everything, a lot of times we'll be talking about negative stuff here, but here's the positive stuff, okay? We got a playground south of your skull to rehab yourself. And Susan and I are actually in a book club, and the book I actually recommended for our next one up, because it's in a rotation, is, I don't know how much, anybody know who Jordan Belfort was? Wolf of Wall Street? Ever see that movie? Okay. Well, obviously the movie is pretty bad about his lifestyle, but if he actually is truly sorry for everything he did, he built people out of billions of dollars in investments, and he wrote a new book, and one of the things he talks about, and I just put the link in there, but I think he is actually truly sorry because he's actually charging a reasonable price. You can get this stuff called Boom Boom Energy, and it's like $20. And just as an example, you can buy any of these essential oils here at probably Sprouts or Whole Foods or somewhere like that for about the same price. And what he used to do was hookers and cocaine. Okay, well, this here, if you want to wake up your brain, you just take a big whiff of it every day, and like he claims that it helps to clear, you know, his senses. So that's just another way of activating your olfactory pathways. So if you want to keep them viable, it's a cheap thing to do. Okay, regular exercise, and this is the deal. You have to find an exercise you enjoy doing. Okay, if you hate to run, don't be a runner. Okay, and the best thing is a lot of times, you know, they're really marking this, have a buddy system, or if you want to get into a group class. And the big thing is I always try to show people exercises that are midline. I can give you an eye exercise, I can give you a balance pad exercise, and if you really want to make your back healthier and stronger, do them before you go do whatever you like to do, whether it's golf, whether it's tennis, whether you want to hike, whether you run, you want to do yoga, Pilates. These are all good things to do. Okay, last 2 things here I got listed is basically if you're over 40, you should probably get annual blood work, okay, because there's really, when you look at things, if you're trying to prevent not just neurodegenerative disease, but the 2 big C's is cancer and cardiac, okay, and if you actually get blood work and find out things preventatively you can do to make your body healthier. And one thing, there's many companies in town, I use Cathedral Health, and I usually have them come to my office twice a year, and they do a screening with Doppler ultrasounds. They do 11 tests. It takes about 45 minutes. It's a wellness screen. It's $175. Normally they charge $200 for it. They give me a discount because I just have them come in year after year. But a lot of times too, if you go to cathedralhealthservices.org, you can find they'll be like at churches or schools. That's how I met them years ago. Okay, now everybody's always looking for the magic pill or supplement, and I'll be a little counterintuitive here, but I did pass around this here. Does anybody know what mitochondria is?
It's in your cells.
Okay, good, okay. And there's many structures in your cells, and one of them's called mitochondria. It's the powerhouse of the cell. And in my practice, I use laser therapy quite a bit. It's a light therapy. It basically stimulates mitochondrial, it basically increases mitochondrial activity anywhere from 25 to 36%, okay? That's a physical modality, okay? There's a lot of things you can do nutrition-wise with it. And I gave everybody a sample of this, and do not take it tonight, okay? Because it's a supplement that has a lot of different antioxidants in it. Resveratrol is one of them, and resveratrol is found in red wine. And if you're trying to cut back on the bad things in your lifestyle, okay, and coffee may be one of them. Coffee for one person may be the best thing in the world, and for other people, it's going to make you crazy. So if you're looking for something that's trying to stimulate your mitochondrial activity with a natural supplement, take this, okay? Mix it in at least 6 to 8 ounces of water because it's effervescent. And do not put it in your mouth. Like a lot of times when I'm doing stuff in packets, I put it in my mouth, put the water, it was like a seagull with a Alka-Seltzer in my thing. But it just, I like it. It's if you're trying to cut back on coffee, it's something you might want to take. And then if you know you're sensitive, just take the dose in half. So